Hi, I'm Eric Whedon, a seasoned go-to-market software executive, team builder, and a catalyst for revenue growth. My journey is fueled by a profound passion for ushering in a new era of dental healthcare through cutting-edge AI technology.
Hi, I'm Liz Strickwerda. Since 2008, I've been immersed in the world of dental marketing and business technology. At TrueLark, I focus on explaining how generative AI can help multi-practice dental organizations scale while redefining the patient experience. Together, we welcome you to Navigating DSO Innovation, where we have unfiltered conversations with dental leaders and discuss how they are using tech to win in this booming market. On today's episode, we welcome one of our favorite TrueLark partners, Phil Toe. Phil is a co-founder of the Smilist DSO, which launched in 2014. The Smilist is one of the leading dental support organizations in the New York area and supports more than 60 locations and more than 1,200 employees across New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Delaware, and Pennsylvania. Phil is also an operating partner at Zenyth Partners, which focuses exclusively on the healthcare market. Zenyth recently secured a whopping $285 million debt facility to fund continued growth. Welcome, Phil. Can you start with telling us about your background?
Absolutely. Thank you, Eric. So my background, did not kind of start in dentistry. So early on in my career, I was a consultant, a kind of a healthcare tech startup guy, and then also a venture capitalist. But then, decided that all of those things didn't quite fit what I was looking to do, and then decided to go to business school and take a 2-year vacation. And so it was a business school that I really kind of saw a lot of opportunity in healthcare, not necessarily dental, but certainly kind of broadly speaking in healthcare. And that was when kind of I say I fell into dental, and I joined Henry Schein kind of after business school. And there at Henry Schein, I really kind of got to see really kind of the opportunities kind of out there. When you look at so many other industries where there was so much kind of consolidation happening, got to see that, here in particular, kind of in the Northeast, kind of in the New York metro area that we're in, that, the whole kind of concept of DSO was largely foreign, and so was at Schein for about 10 years, and then, together, with a classmate of mine from business school, kind of jumped into it and started the Smilist actually about 10 years ago, almost exactly 10 years ago.
2014, right? Yeah.
Yeah, in 2014. And over time, just really started, building the organization. And as, so many startups do, made a lot of mistakes along the way and kind of learned. And I'm sure there's still many more in front of us to make.
So in those 10 years, now when we spoke last year for the case study, you did mention how, like other businesses, COVID threw everything aside, all plans aside. But in addition to that, what other big changes have happened to your DSO and then just the broader industry?
Yeah, so what I would say, at these kind of anniversary points, it's always kind of a time for reflection, right? And so how I would characterize us at the very beginning was really, it was like, again, as kind of startups do, it was a time for experimentation. There are many, many things that we were trying to figure out. What is our business model? Are we going to be kind of affiliation acquisition based, or are we going to be kind of de novo based? And, how big should a practice be? How standardized, should we be? What kind of technology and software should we use? All of those things. And, the most important is the, type of people, that we are kind of interacting with. And so, I would say at the very beginning was just a lot about learning kind of, learning what's good, what's bad, learning what our identity is, right? who is the Smilist? What is the Smilist? What does the Smilist represent, in the marketplace? Not just with kind of our employees, our doctors, but also the broader community in terms of, potential affiliations with kind of all the partners that we deal with, whether it's on the technology side or kind of who we buy dental supplies from in the labs. And so that kind of really set forth kind of a clear picture for us in terms of, what do we want to be when we grow up? And it was there that I'll say kind of two main lessons. One is when we talk about who we want to be, it's about the people. And, and I'd say some of the early mistakes is sometimes we partnered with the wrong people. Sometimes we hired the wrong people. And that was a big lesson for us. So when we talk about how we're very kind of culture driven, culture comes from the people, right? And as a growing organization, we're going to add more and more people. So that was like a huge lesson for us, and kind of finding the right people is going to help us kind of deliver kind of exceptional care and service, and kind of what's going to set us apart from, kind of average offices. And then the other kind of big learning I put in the big category of kind of like the infrastructure. We knew we wanted to grow. We want to grow in measured ways, but we're I'll say kind of ambitious kind of group of people. And so we want to grow very quickly as well, and making sure that we have the infrastructure in place so that we can grow, I'll say kind of more easily. Because, every time we affiliate with the practice and kind of integrate it with us, it's a challenge, it's managing change. And so making sure that we have the infrastructure in place so that we can grow, we can provide, I'll say personalized service, for the offices. Because, our customers, oftentimes we say, oh, well, the DSO, our customers are the patients, but really our customers are the practices. And so when we bring them, into the Smilist family, how are we helping them? How do we help them kind of operate better? How do we help them kind of grow? And how do we help them not have this kind of us versus kind of corporate kind of mentality that, I've seen kind of my entire career. So those are, I'd say kind of like the two big lessons that, that kind of taught us like, from the beginning, and where we are today.
Thanks for sharing that, Phil. A couple of themes that you touched on, kind of us versus them, working with the right people, kind of creating the right culture. I'm really you said that you made a lot of mistakes as a startup, and I don't know what you're talking about as a startup. All kidding aside, one of the things that you guys decided to do was have a unique, unified brand across all locations, the Smilist, right? So if I'm engaging with a Smilist location, I know it's part of the brand. It's very consistent in terms of look and feel and how you present yourself, on your websites and things like that. And I'm sure you carry that through patient care. That's not always the case with all DSOs out there. We see a lot of DSOs where they're, they have, affiliates, partners, acquisitions, things like that, where they're maintaining the brand that is local into the patient. They may or may not even know that they're going to a practice that's affiliated with XYZ DSO. Can you share a little bit about your thought process behind going down the route that you went down? And was it even up for debate? Was that even a discussion of how to do that?
No, absolutely. It was, again, part of that experimentation phase kind of at the beginning. And what I would say is that pretty quickly, we kind of came to that conclusion where we wanted to be a branded model. Because one of the things that we always heard was why they didn't want to be why somebody didn't want to be a branded model was because of, the risks that kind of came with it. Oh, well, what happens if, brand X kind of or brand location X of brand Y kind of, had something bad happen, let's say completely out of their control. And I would say the way we think about it is No, we want that kind of that pressure on us. We want to have that elevated standard that says, no, let's, instead of planning for us where, we're going to make the mistake, we're going to make the mistake, and that's fine. But how do we react to that mistake? And, it's like, whatever, you could be in, food and beverage, and, something will happen. But what comes out of kind of the value of the brand and the brand you build is how do you deal with it? And so, in a much, I guess, kind of lower, not as critical. It's like, hey, if we get a poor review, and it's not like, hey, we don't strive to say, hey, we're going to be perfect. We're going to have 5 stars, whatever, 10,000, 100,000 reviews. No, because that's the feedback that we get on how we can do better. And so, so that very quickly kind of made us want to be a branded model. And, it doesn't happen right away. Again, we talked about when we partner up with practices, we want to have that change management. And so, but the reality is that, we hold ourselves to a high standard, and we want to be, and it's kind of like, how do we react to when things that don't go right, as opposed to trying to prevent things from not going right, because it's just going to happen. Yeah. And then we find that there's a lot of, operational and marketing kind of synergies by having a branded model. Because again, we're very geographically concentrated. So where we have a lot of practices, we have people that know us. They're like, oh yeah, we saw you kind of, you guys are popping up like everywhere, kind of when I'm driving around that particular area. So that really helps from a recruitment standpoint. It helps from a branding standpoint, marketing standpoint. And so there's kind of many positives that come from a branded model, but recognize it's not for everyone. And at various points, early on, it wasn't for us as well, but we made it work.
So turning a bit to tech now, in a recent DEO magazine interview, you said AI will continue to be able to do more to raise people to the top of their licenses by giving them more confidence, making everyone more efficient, will free up time to see more patients, enabling greater patient access that many patients otherwise wouldn't have. So how is that manifesting itself in your network of practices?
Yeah. So what I would say is, we now live in an age where, where everybody's trying to do more with less, right? This kind of age of how do we improve productivity and efficiency. But in the dental industry, it's difficult because there's so many things that are so manual, right? All these manual tasks that we have. And so it makes it difficult. But having said that, it also I'm not sure, I always say it's not like the best use of, our team's time to do lots of follow-up work, right? Hey, you need to call the insurance, filling out forms, you're confirming appointments, explaining x-rays. And so when we think about kind of AI and technology, is it can play such a big part in kind of that's what technology is good at doing, right? How do we automate or kind of address these very kind of repetitive tasks? And, and then back in the day, it's like the old, okay, if X, then Y. It was very rigid. But now kind of with AI is that, it can be much more contextual. And so now we can apply it, I'll say kind of the super low hanging fruit, where kind of if X then Y still works, but also kind of raising that level of the types of things that it can do. And so, our view when we say, okay, can somebody operate at the top of their license, is how do we take these things away? Kind of how do we utilize and leverage technology to handle these things so that the teams can have a job that's just much more kind of fulfilling, because they can focus on kind of addressing real patient concerns. The real patient concern is not for you to, make me wait while you're calling, the insurance company. But as opposed to, hey, spending the time with me to explain to me that treatment that I might not understand, that I might not think I can afford, and like why do I kind of need this treatment, why it's important. So we want it to be where, people feel like every day and kind of every moment, kind of patient interaction, that they're making a real difference. So it's not like, I'm not sure people say, oh, I made a real difference because I stood on hold for 30 minutes while calling the insurance company. So by having a much more kind of like, hey, this is what you're good at. That's why you're in this position. And we have plenty of people, they say, I love interacting with patients, but I hate whatever, kind of a lot of the back end kind of administrative and workflow type activities that they just don't enjoy. And so that's a lot of, we comb through the organization, understand what are the things that, can be addressed with technology, and really kind of hone in on how to address it. And so then it's not like this feeling that, there's always this fear, oh, well, technology is going to replace me, right? No, it's not. Google Maps didn't replace anybody. It made everybody better, in how to get to their destination, and hopefully get to their destination on time. Right. So that's kind of how we think about it.
Yeah. And I got to imagine, Phil, that line of thinking and kind of presenting the why behind it of, hey, this allows you to do the activities that are higher, better value use of your time, that are more enjoyable for you, right? Which will lead to, satisfaction in your role, and hopefully longer retention and time with the company. Do you use that when rolling out new technology? Because ultimately, the two things are a little bit at odds, right? Here's something that is new, and you're gonna have to change the way that you do things. And usually people have a very high, strong resistance to that. But I think if you're able to get through to them up front, like, hey, no, yeah, maybe short pain and changing the long-term benefit, and being able to free you up to focus on these higher value activities. Is that?
Yeah, I would say you don't even need to focus on the long-term activity, right? We've all kind of read about and heard about the labor shortage. Not just in dentistry, but kind of, across the country in all industries, right? And so what we find, it's a very easy message, because it's just everybody's like overstretched. And so it's not like, oh, well, I only do this activity, and then now you're trying to convince me that this technology is going to do that one activity that I do. The reality is the team is doing, 50, 100 different activities. And by saying, hey, we can help get these like 5 or 10 things off your plate, they're like, thank goodness, because I have another 50 things to do. And I know I need to do it, but I don't ever have the time to get around to it. And so maybe part of it is, the timing, right? The timing, it's been, I'll say, a much easier kind of conversation. And I think the reality is also, again, a function of the roles within a dental office. Very few people only do one thing.
Yeah.
In an office, particularly kind of in the front desk, area. And so as a result, it's been, we found, and part of it is culture, right? The culture has been people accept, hey, how can I do things kind of better? And if you're introducing these tools, and it becomes like a great kind of recruiting tool as well. It's like, wow, you do this, you mean I don't have to, you have technology that will get the insurance verification, and I don't have to spend all day or part of my day doing it. Fantastic, and so it's been welcome with open arms until there's a mistake, and then, we hear about it.
So I guess none of the employees at your practices want to be on the phone all day with insurance companies.
Apparently not.
Shocking. So What emerging tech are you most excited about? Not just in dentistry, but in the broader healthcare, say in your Zenyth Partners portfolio
Yeah,
company.
I mean, it's in the title of the show, AI. I think AI, it's just scratching the surface. I think there's so much that it can do, because it's not as rigid as it used to, right? Now it's like, again, it's the I portion of it. There's the intelligence where it's not, hey, I have to define like 1,000 rules, because the reality, we live in a world, there's lots of gray. And it's not so easy for us to document kind of every rule if then statement to capture everything. And so being able to leverage technology to be able to do some of these things, and it's incredible. I mean, we're using, even with TrueLark, right? We're interacting with patients in a very kind of conversational way, integrating it with our, practice management system so that it can actually do things. It's not just answering questions, but it can actually do things like, schedule appointments for you. We have bots that go out to insurance companies and gets all the information so that when you come through the door, we know exactly what's covered, what's not covered, and there's transparency. Just like when you jump into an Uber, you want to know how much it's going to cost. We need the information to be able to tell you, okay, this dental visit's going to cost this much. Unfortunately, the industry is not always kind of adopting technology at the same pace.
Yeah.
But we're finding ways around that using AI as well. We're using AI to call insurance companies. I mean, I am blown away. They must have some metric that they're not allowed to hang up the phone. But we have basically AI chatting with insurance agents to kind of get information, because otherwise they don't, kind of offer that information kind of readily that we can get, in other methods. So it's a bit of our kind of last line of defense. And, and we're also using AI to, read x-rays, and that's helping to facilitate conversations with patients, where it's like, look, most people don't know how to read x-rays. If I put up an x-ray and say, oh, well, you have a cavity, or, you need a root canal, people will say, they'll nod their heads, but most do not know what you're talking about. But with the advent of, AI, it's able to highlight and show, you can take the colors, on and off. And it just really helps facilitate that conversation with patients. And, really kind of builds trust as well. It's like, well, the computer said it, so it must be true, right? And so I think we're looking, all of these things that I've mentioned, they're still, like, in my mind, kind of very like point solutions. So, the AI is addressing one particular issue, but I think over time, as it gets more and more advanced, it's going to be able to do more things, and then be able to connect different things and throughout a dental office, and even more broadly, kind of healthcare.
Phil, not all practices are tech forward as much as how you described the Smilist. When evaluating a practice that may join the Smilist, how much does their openness to innovation, their openness to using technology, come into that decision point of whether they're a fit or not to be part of your DSO?
It doesn't, honestly. We're not projecting kind of our philosophy and values onto them. So like I mentioned earlier, the most important is the people. Yeah. And, we find the right people with the right cultural fit. And I'll say that perhaps the thing that we are looking for is, are they open-minded? Yeah. Just as I say, look, where the Smilist is and what we are today is not what we were 10 years ago. We want that kind of evolution, that evolutionary thinking from our partners. And so when we work with them, look, they may have some amazing ideas and ways of doing things that we didn't think about. We're always listening. And then we think, okay, how do we adapt this to kind of all our locations? because that's a great idea, and vice versa. We want them to be open-minded to try things, so that things, with this kind of idea, like, hey, we want to improve, we want to grow. And so we find that when people are open-minded, that they are kind of very growth oriented, whether it could be kind of clinically, professionally, kind of personally. And that, again, it's not measured in a spreadsheet, but that mentality kind of permeates through the office. And so it's not like one person that has that thinking. It's like everybody in the practice has that thinking. And it's hard to measure, for sure, and that's one of the things that we try and hone our skills on, is kind of how do we be very good judges of character? How do we be very observant in terms of, what are the little clues in the body language, in an office? Those are the things that we're really looking for, not necessarily like, oh, well, you still seem to be using an old version of this, or maybe worse, like paper scheduling. Those things we find we can overcome, as long as people are open-minded.
So do you have a specific example of something that one of your practices brought this idea that you were able to, spread to other practices?
I would say most of our kind of technology ideas, has kind of permeated many. It's always such a nice surprise when we kind of meet a practice and then they're like, oh no, we're already using this kind of piece of software, or we're using technology to address this kind of need. Because immediately we're like, oh,
it's tested.
They get it. And, whether you use brand A or brand B, it usually is less of an issue. And so you'd be surprised. Some of the super basic things that I'll say kind of has helped the practice, help save time, save money, run more efficiently. One, procurement. It's very common for a dental practice. I buy from 10 different suppliers, and they go to 10 different websites, and and it's not uncommon to meet perhaps an assistant or a dentist that says, oh yeah, I'm really good at finding deals. And it's like, no, there's things like Kayak and Expedia out there. They'll just kind of aggregate everything and make it simple for you. Yeah, let's do that. Even with TrueLark, I mean, look, every practice, has some level of unanswered kind of phone calls. And when we talk about the ability to address the unanswered phone calls immediately, and also be able to kind of take action, and it's like, and their immediate kind of reaction is like, oh, it's one of those they think of it as those phone kind of directories, like, okay, press 1, press 2. And we're like, no. And then we'll show them hey, here's the different types of conversations that I had. And there was no human interaction. And they're like, wow, we cannot believe that this is, that this exists out there. Because again, we are, I'll say, kind of healthcare operators. Right? We're not like technologists. Dentists don't have time to kind of comb the market, comb the web and figure out what are the new companies and new technologies out there. They're focused on patient care. They're focused on maybe new clinical technology. And so when they see these types of solutions out there, oftentimes the reaction is like, wow, I didn't know this existed. Or, oh, I heard about this company, but I don't know what they do. So perhaps that's a criticism of the marketing of various dental software companies. But yeah, I think in terms of just kind of introducing all the different types of technologies, ultimately, as Eric mentioned earlier, it's to make your life simpler. And that's the value, we want to bring to a practice. It's not like, oh, you're now part of the Smilist, and, and that's it. You do everything yourself, and literally like nothing changed. We say, no, there will be change. We hope it's positive change, but change is change, and we're going to help you kind of navigate through it.
Mm. Yeah, kind of on that helping people navigate through change and just not we talked about people. You've talked a lot about people and the culture. What would you say? I mean, there's a lot of people that I talk to that are working in at the front desk of a practice, and they're looking at kind of their career and ways to evolve and maybe even successfully transition into being part of the DSO management team. Any advice to those out there that might be in that position that are looking to grow their careers and be part of a DSO management, and how different is that from going from practice to the operator behind the scenes?
Yeah. So I think part of it, again, it's kind of having that open-minded mentality, because it is a change, and we've kind of lived through much of this, like you said, as kind of more of that front desk kind of operator. You're so used to kind of getting your information with your eyes, with your ears, right? You kind of, hey, you hear what people are saying, you see what people are doing. But it changes when you start, and this is a bit of, our kind of journey, right? As growing as an organization, is that you start to, you need to start thinking about how to scale. Yeah. So if I am, let's say if I were to manage and oversee 5 offices, I can go there Monday through Friday. I can still use my eyes and ears. What if I told you, okay, you have 20 offices? Then, how are you going to split up, your day? And then you have to start thinking about things differently. And so it could be, hey, I know what's going on through reports and analytics. It could be, technology and automation. Hey, I know that this is happening. I trust that it's happening because, the system is doing what it is, supposed to do. The bank is going to tell you how much money you have. Is, you need to have that trust in like the system and the processes, right? And then, they need to learn how to use kind of the information that they have to be able to ask the right questions. Right. Because again, when you are now kind of scaling, you don't have enough resources, you don't have enough time. And so those are the things that you need to be able to, do better, so that I can now, hey, Eric, I'm not in your office, but I know that this is going on. Hey, fantastic on, these things. But hey, what's going on over here? It could be a person, it could be, I don't know, it could be like collections, it could be, maybe some clinical concerns that you have. And all of this you're able to do through, at a basic level, some sort of like remote kind of technology. And then if it's more advanced, maybe some software that will really kind of help you hone in and do at scale. So even when we talk about some of the AI technology as it relates to on the clinical side, what we're looking at it is, okay, we do regular kind of chart audits, but I can only sample them. I might, catch something, I might not. But through technology, you get scanned through every single chart, every single patient for some period of time, and then hone in on it. I mean, the same thing, I say, one person kind of always gets upset at me. Like when we did the procurement system, we really kind of honed it in a way that really highlights kind of exceptions, right? And so she alone is kind of overseeing about like 25,000 invoices annually. She can only do that because she's only in reality looking at hundreds, not tens of thousands, but those are the exceptions. And everything else kind of falls. And so that, in my mind, is that mental leap that many people need to kind of jump over when they go from working in an individual kind of dental practice to something kind of broader, where they're overseeing, much more. And then related to that is, again, even on the softer side of things, hey, I'm very good at, developing relationships and the culture within the office. Now you have to think about, how do I kind of have that culture and those relationships when I'm not in the office? Maybe I only make it into the office once a month. What happens, And so they have to think of like creative ways, and that's where the open-mindedness kind of comes in, because they realize and very quickly need to adapt. What worked for them yesterday doesn't work for them today.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that insight.
Yeah. Well, you said that you came prepared with some things you wanted to talk about. Did we miss anything that you'd like to share?
No, I think you guys covered, a lot of kind of the areas and part of that growth journey, right? That we have, and that's kind of true for, I think, everybody, is that, it is a journey. And every time we've kind of set milestones for ourselves, and, the good news is we've met them, maybe not always in the timeframes that we've set, sometimes earlier, sometimes later, yeah. But it is a journey. And I think when people enjoy the journey because of, the people that they work with and just kind of having fun, it's like a magical experience. I've just had so much fun in terms of, building the Smilist, kind of going through our growing pains, and we grow because of the, the uncomfortable kind of, times that we've had as well. So it's not necessarily just the positive. And so as others are thinking about growth, as they think about adopting kind of technology or a kind of change, it's all part of the journey. And each time you do it, I want to say you get better and better at it. Never perfect, but better and better. Mm-hmm. And when you do it with people that you love, then it's quite a magical thing.
Well, we really appreciate you sharing your sage with us today. And we'll hopefully see you continue to do great things.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Love to have you back.